Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be showing you how I edit my pictures. Well, just one of them because editing all of them would take forever. I asked you guys on my Instagram which photo you guys would like to see me edit, and this one was the winner. So thank you guys for voting on there, and also thank you Jen, to the model who let me use her picture for this video. The editing software that I use is Photoshop, and I tried learning Lightroom in the beginning, but it was confusing to me, and I decided that I should just learn Photoshop anyways because I was gonna have to know how to use it in the future. And the way I learned how to edit was through YouTube. I would watch a bunch of retouching tutorials and I would take notes, and then I would also practice on my own images. And I think that's how you get better, is just by practicing. And everybody has their own technique and everybody has their own editing style. So don't come at me if you see me doing something wrong, because there is no right or wrong answer here. This is just what I picked up by watching a bunch of videos. So let's begin. Photoshop will always open up your raw image in Camera Raw, and in Camera Raw is where I like to make just some minor adjustments, like if I need to brighten up my photo, add some contrast, maybe mess with the colors a bit, but nothing too crazy. And I don't really have a method of how I approach this. I just kind of toggle with the scroll bar and see what I like, see what the picture needs. Sometimes if there's a lot of whites in the images or highlights, I like to lower those, just because, see, I don't know what the fuck I was doing here. I think I was just experimenting, seeing what looks good with the disco ball. But yeah, usually if your photo is really exposed, you can always bring down the whites and the highlights and bring up the contrast, and that'll usually help it out. I decided to go with this image because it's from one of my first shoots with complete strangers, and I just want to see how my editing has changed. At the end of this video, I'm going to show you the original file, my previous edit, the one I did in 2018, and then my edit now, and see how much I've improved. So this curves layer, I'm pretty intimidated by. I still need to learn more about it, but sometimes I like to mess with it. I don't think I ended up going with it though. We'll see what I do. I forgot what I was doing here. But also, whenever I do little edits, I like to look at the before and after picture just to see what kind of changes it made and if I like them or not. But see, I didn't like them. I just deleted them. Next, we're gonna go over to the color mixer, and this is where you adjust the hue, the saturation, and the luminance of a photo. This is like where you can just have a little bit of fun with it. I don't really like to do too much here, but here's a little trick. If you click on this little plus sign that's on the right corner, which I'm going to do in a bit, I think, it makes it so much easier because you just click on wherever you want the hue or the saturation or the luminance to be adjusted, and Camera Raw will move the little sliders for you, and you just have to move up or down or side to side to your liking, which I think is pretty cool. what I've done with all my modifications. I like to adjust the temperature a bit. And yeah, here's the before and after. We are gonna move on to Photoshop. Open. We've made it into Photoshop.
I'm so fucking sick and tired of the Photoshop.
I know it looks intimidating, but the more you practice on it, the easier it becomes. And trust me, I'm not an expert. I still have so much more to learn on here. But let's begin with the retouching. The technique that I use is frequency separation. I find it the easiest for me, and like everything else, it just takes a lot of practice. The first thing that I like to do is just get rid of any small spots, whether that's flyaways, little specks, lint on the shirt, small blemishes, and I like to use the spot healing brush tool. And I'm also going to be bringing down the reds using a black and white adjustment layer because that helps me see the spots better. Just going to move it down until I'm able to see just like any spots or specks that need to be removed. Went ahead and deleted the black and white adjustment layer because that was just there to help me out. And now moving on to removing these flyaways. I absolutely hate flyaways. They're so annoying in pictures, but you just have to find a way to get rid of them. They're always going to be there some way, somehow. And I usually toggle between a couple different tools. The spot healing brush tool, the healing brush tool, and the clone stamp. And I basically just go between those three until I see the results that I want. Begin with our frequency separation technique. Frequency separation is just separating the high frequencies from the low frequencies in your image. The way I like to see it is that the low frequencies are our skin's pigment, our undertones, any discolorations, and the high frequencies are our skin's texture, the pores, the hair follicles, wrinkles, things like that. I'm going to be merging my blemish layer with my background, which I don't even know if that's what I'm supposed to be doing, but don't judge me. Next, I'm going to make two layers and calling one of them my base, the other one texture. These are the two separate frequencies. The low frequency is the base and the high frequency is the texture. Make sure you hide the texture layer and have your base layer selected. We're going to go to the top and go to filter, blur, Gaussian blur. And in this part, you want to blur out the image just until you can barely see the texture. So you want to be able to see some splotches, I guess, on the face. I'll point them out, but just up until that point. Alright, so I decided to go with 7 for my radius pixels, pressing OK. Next, you want to highlight the texture layer, go to image, apply image, select for your layer, the base layer, blending, subtract, and you want to make sure the scale is 2 to 128. I don't know what these numbers mean, but that's just the standard for this technique. I'm going to change the blending mode of this layer to linear light, and then grouping these layers together and calling it FS for frequency separation. Now I'm going to make a copy of the base layer just in case I make any mistakes. I can always delete it and start over. I like to always start with the base layer and with the healing brush tool. And what I'm going to be doing is sampling an area of the skin that I think looks best, and then going over those areas that need to be retouched with that sample of that skin color. And I like to do this with the texture layer off because I can just see all of the discolorations and none of the textures, but you can also toggle between like hiding the texture layer and hiding it again. Just depends on your preference, but I like to mainly use it with the texture layer off. Some things to watch out for when you're retouching this way is just to make sure you don't overdo it and you don't get rid of some colors that should be there. For example, the areas around the nose are critical. Those kinds of shadows should be there, and then around the lips. Some of those, they're natural and shouldn't be removed. Also, if there's like birthmarks or moles, you should also keep those. Like, that's what makes a person unique. That's their face. So you don't want to remove those things from an image. Now for the texture layer, I'm going to be using the spot healing brush tool because I feel like this is quickest for me, and I'm just going to go ahead and just remove any additional like specks, any other blemishes that I didn't catch the first time around. And this part doesn't take too long because I got most of that out of the way in the beginning. If the model is wearing any eye makeup, like eyeshadow and eyeliner, I always like to make these areas stand out a bit more. So what I'll do is I'll take the brush tool and I'll sample their eyeshadow color and just blend it over their eyelids a bit more. And also, if the eyeliner, if it's become smudged or cracked, then this definitely helps. Another thing that I like doing is cleaning up the eyebrows if needed. I'll just use a harder brush for that, and also I'll define the lips a bit more. We're almost done with the image. In this section, I wanted to make her eyes pop, especially because the disco ball is reflecting off her face. So I've created two layers, one for the inside of her eye and the other layer for the outside portion of her eye. And I've also added this brightness adjustment layer and bumped it up just so I can see the light brown color of her eye. Once I've sampled her color, I'm just gonna oversaturate that, and that'll be my new color for her eye. With the brush tool, I'm just going to paint in the areas where I feel the color would stand out, which to me is the bottom portion of her eye. I'm going to repeat that same process, but now for the outer like black ring part of her eye. I don't know what that's called. I'm going to group these two layers and call it eyes just to keep things organized. That rhymed. And I'm also going to add a blur to each layer just because I feel that will make it look more natural. If you ever feel like your edits on a specific layer are too much, then you can always scroll the opacity a little to the left, and that'll make things look a little bit more normal. Obviously her eyes don't look that much different, but just wait for this part. I'm going to be adding a curves layer and pushing that up to brighten it. Next, I'm going to invert the mask, and with the brush tool and with the white selected, the white color, I'm going to paint over the areas that I want to lighten up. And see, the eyes are now popping. We're going to do the same thing, but now we're going to darken up areas that we want to add more depth to. So another curves layer. Push it down this time, not too crazy. And yeah, we're going to invert the mask, and again with the white brush, just go over the areas that you want to darken. I like the way the eyes turned out, and now I'm going to be adding a brightness and contrast adjustment layer. I'm sorry, I lied. I thought the eyes were the last thing I did, but I guess not. I added this selective color adjustment layer, and I really love using this adjustment layer. You can really target specific colors, and within those colors there's the undertones of them. There's cyan, the magentas, yellows, and the blacks, and this can really make your image stand out. I would suggest messing around with this adjustment layer. Thank you if you've made it this far in the video. I went ahead and grouped all my modifications into one just so you can see the before and after. I think it turned out great. Give this video a thumbs up if you think so as well. Here you can see all three versions of this photo: the original raw file, my 2018 edit, and my 2021 edit. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!